So today I want to look at just make a little bit more explicit Davidson's conception of a truth theory. The way you a truth theory is Davidson's picture of the way you characterize the meanings of all the sentences of a language. And his account, the way you do it is by giving a truth definition for the language. I'll just try and give a sense of how he thinks that works. Then I'll look again at the thing we were covering last time, Davidson's instrumentalism about reference. And I said last time that has something to do with the idea that sentences are primary, that language really has to do with the use of words is really dependent on their use in sentences. The thing is, there is also a sense in which words are primary, and I'll come to that at the end. Okay, so the idea of a truth theory. So just to explain what it is, first of all, we need the notion of a meta-language. So that's great. Okay. It's inspiring, it's uplifting. That's good. So far, we've been talking about the meanings of English words. It's just arbitrary that we chose English. I mean, it's not entirely arbitrary because it's practically the only language that we're all pretty sure we understand. I mean, that everyone else understands here. In principle, we could have been doing the same for French or German or Russian or Chinese or whatever. We could have been discussing the meaning of the signs of any particular language. So we can make a distinction between the language we're studying, the meanings of whose signs we're trying to characterize, and on the other hand, the language in which we're talking about that language. So there's a target language, the language we're studying, and the language that we're using to discuss it. Yep. So the object language is the language we're studying, French or German or English or whatever it is, and the meta language is the language in which we talk about our object or target language. Yeah. So meta comes from the Greek word meta, meaning the language you use to talk about the language you're studying. Isn't that right? Okay. Now suppose you take notions like reference or truth. Terms like reference or truth apply to the signs of your object language. So take the language you're studying, French or German or Russian or whatever. The sentences of that language can be true or false. True is a word of English that you use to describe those strings of French or German or Italian or English or whatever it is. So true is a term of the meta language. It's a term used to classify sentences of your object language. Some of those sentences are true, some of them are false. Is that okay? Yep.
So true is not ambiguous?
Well, in a sense, no. What's a little bit confusing about the way we've done it so far is that the language that we're studying is English, and we're doing this in English. Right? But once you make this distinction between using English as the object language and using it as a meta language, yeah, it becomes clear that true is figuring as a word of the meta language rather than as a word of the object language, just because it's a term used to classify words of the object language. Yep. Okay. Strings of signs of the object language. Yep. That okay? Okay. So when you're giving a definition of truth for a language, you're going to be using the meta language to define true for your object language. Okay. Okay. So the meta language is going to be very rich. It's going to be at least as rich a language as your object language. The meta language, if you're going to study French, the meanings of French signs in English, the English has to have a system of signs that is at least as rich as all the signs of French. So your meta language is going to contain at least this. There will be a translation in your meta language of every sentence of the object language. Or if in English you're talking about signs of English, then the English that's your meta language has to have all the signs of your object language and the words true and false and so on as well. All right so far? Okay. So you're going to have in your meta language a translation or a copy of every sentence of your object language. It's also going to have a name for every sentence of your object language. You want to be able to talk about your object language, right? So you want to be able to designate every sentence in it. You see what I mean? This is just working through what you need in a language that you're going to use to study another language. You need to be able to identify all the signs of your object language. Oh, you'll need some logical vocabulary, if, then, and so on. Okay? Okay. So consider snow is white. That's a sentence of English. We want to study the meaning of a sentence like snow is white. We want to be able to say something about the meaning of sentences like snow is white. So you give it a name, right? You can give it a name in lots of different ways. You could call it Max. You could call it Ernest. You could call it practically anything, right? But there is a standard way of forming names of sentences, which is to put quotation marks around them. So this whole sign here with quotation marks around it, is that a sign of the object language or a sign of the meta language? Very good. Who said that? Yeah, right. You use this. Snow is white is a sign of your object language, sign you're studying. This is how you designate it in your meta language. Yeah? And then you can go on and say this is true or this is false or whatever. Yeah? Make remarks about its meaning. So the meta language is going to have a name and a translation of every sentence in your object language. Yep. We're about to define truth. So follow me very closely here. Okay. Once you've got a name and a name for every sentence in your object language and a translation of every sentence in your object language, then you can give the following formulation. We're going to use S. When I write S in what follows, what's going to replace S will be the name of a sentence in the object language. Okay? All right, so what would be an example, a sample stand-in for S, replacement of S? It will be a name for a sentence in your object language, such as Max, or or Ernest, thank you. Or Snow is white in quotation marks. Okay? These are all names of sentences in your object language. So these will be sample translations of S. And when I write P, what replaces P is the translation or the copy of the sentence you just named in the meta language. Okay. So what will replace P if S was this, in quotation marks, Snow is white, what would replace P? Yep. Very good, exactly. Snow is white without quotation marks. Or if your meta language was French, what would replace P would be just the sentence La neige est blanche, or something like that. Yeah, yeah, okay. Is that okay for S and P? We are just a step away from defining truth. Okay, so in the meta language, we can frame the following sentence. S is true if and only if P. For each suitable replacement of S and P, that's going to be right. So, class, we're able to give an example. Replacements for S and P. Could you say that louder?
No, it's white.
Do you mean in quotation marks? Yeah.
It's true. There can only be no white.
Very good. Okay, excellent. Right. Okay. Okay, that all right? You could equally have said Max is true if and only if Snow is white, but it's kind of clearer what's going on if you do in quotation marks. Right. What about grass is green? How does it go for grass is green? Okay, suppose we name it using quotation marks. Yep. Very good. So you get the sentence grass is green is true if and only if grass is green. Getting the hang of this? Okay. So for every sentence now of your object language, every sentence of the language you've studied, this is telling you what it takes for that sentence to be true. Yeah. I mean, give me a hard sentence. Give me a challenge. And I'll define truthful. I'll explain what it takes for truth to apply to it. Frogs smile. Okay, there you go. That's a hard sentence. Well, frog smile is true if and only if frogs smile. Right? Okay, so that works for every single sentence. That's a definition of truth. You now know, if you didn't know what true meant before, you now do. If you took the sentences of French and said, I don't know what it takes for any of them to be true, and you gave this definition, that's it. You've done it. You define truth for those sentences of French. Okay? That was easy. Okay, so a truth theory, the thing about this way of doing it is that there are going to be infinitely many sentences in your language, typically, because sentences can be arbitrarily long, right? So this is really standing in for an infinite list of SP pairings. So a truth theory is going to be when you have a finite set, just a short list of axioms from which you can derive these SP pairings for every sentence of your object language. Okay? Now, there's no more to this than meets the eye. I'm just telling you what that is, right? So, for example, suppose we have a language with two names and two predicates. Curiously appropriate. A language with two names and two predicates. Rolly, Isaac, smokes and fishes. How does that go? Well, here's your finite list of axioms, right? Rolly refers to Rolly, Isaac refers to Isaac, smokes applies to something if and only if it smokes, fishes applies to X if and only if X fishes, and then you get the general rule. A sentence of the form A is F is true if and only if the predicate is F applies to what A refers to. Okay? So suppose you want to know whether Rolly fishes is true. What does Rolly stand for? Rolly. So Rolly refers to Rolly, okay? What is fishes? What does it take for fishes to apply to something? Well, X has to fish. So once we toil through the definition, we see that the sentence Rolly fishes is true if and only if fishes applies to what Rolly refers to. What Rolly refers to is Rolly, and fishes applies to Rolly, just in case Rolly fishes. So the sentence Rolly fishes is true if and only if Rolly fishes. Right? So we just did it. We toiled through. Yep, yep. A pleasure, yes. Okay, so we want to know, we've got these axioms, right? And we're going to figure out what does it take for Rolly fishes to be true. Well, this tells you Rolly fishes is true if and only if the predicate fishes applies to what the name Rolly refers to. Okay, well, what does the name Rolly refer to? Well, the name Rolly refers to Rolly. Okay, so this sentence is true if and only if fishes applies to Rolly. Yeah. What does it take for fishes to apply to Rolly? Well, this is telling you Rolly must fish. Yeah. So that's to say, if and only if F applies to what A refers to, what A refers to is Rolly, and fishes applies to that Rolly, just in case Rolly fishes. So what we figured out here is that the sentence Rolly fishes is true if and only if Rolly fishes. Okay. So these axioms are about the words; they're not about sentences. Yeah. But we figured out what it takes for the whole sentence to be true from those axioms. Right. So you do this for we did this for a simple language with two names and two predicates, and now your task is just do that for the whole of English. For every sign of English, say something about it, like Rolly refers to Rolly, such that once you say that about it and plug it into this theory, then you can crank out statements of what it takes for any sentence containing that sign to be true or false. Yeah. I mean, this is simple enough, right? If I've explained this correctly, this should seem very simple. It is very simple. I mean, it's not that I'm explaining it so brilliantly. It actually is very simple. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, it's not trivial to go even a very simple step beyond this. Consider the sentence, everyone fishes. Suppose you expanded that little language, so now we've got a new sign, everyone. What would the axiom for everyone look like? This is a real question. I'm asking you. What we want to get is everyone fishes is true if and only if everyone fishes. Right? That's the right SP pairing. Yeah. So we want an axiom for fishes. We know what the axiom for fishes is. What would the axiom for everyone look like? Yep. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. So Rolly fishes, Rolly and Isaac, something like that. Yeah, that's very good. You'd have everyone fishes. Everyone is F if and only if Rolly is F and Isaac is F. And so on for everybody else. Yeah. That's the tricky part. You can do it for. I can see you can do it for Rolly and Isaac, right? And so on for everyone else. Actually, that's pretty good. Yeah, and so on for everyone else. The thing is, it's not really finite, that is it, because you've got if Raleigh fishes, if Isaac does it, and then you've got infinitely many, right? More of these. Yeah, that's what you mean, and so on. Yeah, so that's pretty good, but it's not finite. Yeah, I mean, I see why you say it, but it's not really finite yet. But it's close. Yeah. So what you got to do is get something finite for everyone. Yeah. Yep. For all x what? For all x. that will get you the right answer, right? Yeah, the thing is, I mean, what is so good about the first answer is the axiom for fishes is that fishes applies to a particular object, if and only if that thing fishes, right? And the first suggestion really catches that, right? So everyone is hooking up to the axiom for fishes, right? That was the thing about working through all the names. Yeah. The thing about your account is that we don't know how the axiom for fishes is going to hook up to the everyone, because this explains fishes for individual objects. You see what I mean? It tells you for each individual object what it takes for the predicate fishes to apply to it. Yeah. And you now say, just stick in everyone there, right? But everyone's not the name of a particular person. You explain a predicate. Sorry? That's right. Yeah, but you haven't defined. This isn't the meta language, right? And this is only terms for particular people. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to put in everyone there. You see what I mean? Because it's only defined for particular people. That was what was so good about the first suggestion. Yeah. Because it is saying if Raleigh fishes and Isaac fishes and so on. Yeah. But you have to change the axiom for fishes to get the effect you want. The thing is, if you remember when we were talking about Russell, the whole point there was that predicates apply in the first instance to individual objects, and then these how many terms, like everyone, are understood later and dependently on that. Yeah. Yeah, it does, but it's an ingenious suggestion. But it doesn't apply to any particular x, right? We need to know what that means. I mean, because we haven't yet understood how an axiom that applies only that tells you only about the application of the predicate to individual objects can be used to explain how that predicate works in the context of something like not any particular. You see, because that's not the name of an object. Yep. Yeah, good question. That's actually what I'm going to come to at the end, right? Why does it have to be finite? But the natural answer is, look, we all. When I walked through this and I said, you get S is true if and only if P, right? For every sentence of English, all of us can recognize that's going to be correct. And for all the infinitely many sentences of English, we know what has to be the case for that sentence to be true. Yeah? That's just what understanding English is. There's no bound in the number of sentences you can understand. But we're finite creatures. Presumably we're doing this on the basis of some finite stock of knowledge. Yeah? So you could say, well, how come? You could say, well, we'll understand the whole language if you know what it is for any arbitrary sentence of that language to be true. But you must be able to do that on a finite basis. Characterize that finite basis, and you'll have described what an ordinary person's understanding of the language is. Well, deriving it from something. I'm going to come back to this, so raise this again in just 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, so look, you see that the project here, I mean, you can see that with a bit of ingenuity, you guys can solve this. I'm not going to pause until we get this cracked, but you can solve this for everyone, right? It's not going to be trivial, but it is solvable for everyone. And then you do it for at least one, many. Then you do it for other bits of the language. You just build up an axiom system for the whole of English from which you can derive every SP pairing like that. One view of that is you could say, look, now I'm explaining to you what the meaning is of truth for this language. Another way of thinking of it, Davidson's way of thinking of it, is to say, what I'm doing here is I'm characterizing the meaning of every sentence of the object language. I suppose you don't know any French. You just have no clue what any French signs mean. And then you're given a theory like this. You're told, well, a blanche applies to something just in case it's white, for example. Right? You get all these predicates of French given characterizations. Given characterizations like this. You get all the names of French given characterizations like that, and then you can derive from them statements for every sentence of French what it takes for that sentence to be true. Then you understand them all. Le chat est sur le tapis. Once you know that that's true, if and only if the cat is on the mat, then you know what it means, right? So you'll be home. So that's how you characterize the meanings of all sentences of the language by this kind of axiomatic approach. That's Davidson's general project for giving a theory of meaning for a language. Okay. As I said last time, during the 1970s and 1980s, the whole generation of philosophers of language devoted the best years of their lives to doing this. I mean, including Davidson for individual bits of English. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I mean, it's still very popular. I mean, it's still the default, right? That's still how most people think the meanings of the signs of the language should be characterized. Okay. So the notion of reference, what you're using the notion of reference for in this kind of